An income you don't have to spend time earning trumps traditional jobs any day of the week. Let me illustrate this with a story. There was a small village nestled in the mountains. The people who lived there were poor and struggled to make ends meet. They lived in small houses made of mud and thatch, and everything they had were their ragged and worn clothes and the big lake nearby. Due to the little rain in the mountains, the crops withered in the fields. People became hungry and desperate, looking for a way to feed themselves and their families. Most of them became fishermen or had to spend their time working in the fields. However, one of them, Jack, had an idea. He wanted to build a fishing trap. Jack spent his days in the fields and his nights in his workshop. He spent weeks building the trap, carefully choosing the materials and constructing it with care. Jack knew that his trap would pay off in the long run. When he had finished it, he set up the fishing trap in the water and waited. Soon, he caught his first fish. He left the trap in the water day and night and came by twice a day to take the fish out. As time went by, his trap caught more fish than anyone else could with a fishing pole, providing him with more fish than he or his family could eat. Jack started to give fish to the rest of the villagers and went on to the next project. He built a pipe to the parched fields to irrigate them. Soon the crops in the fields grew again, and the village had enough to eat once more. What Jack did was create an asset. Assets and liabilities are something like the yin and yang in the financial world. One makes money flow into your pocket. The other makes money flow out of your pocket. Assets have value to you because they can make you money, or you can sell them for more money than you invest to acquire them. They're the things that put money in your pocket, like a rental property, a profitable business, or a high-yield savings account. They're like your good friends, always there to have your back and make you financially stronger. Liabilities have value to others because your liabilities are their assets. In the case of a house, the money you pay as rent or mortgage to the landlord or the bank is a liability to you, but to the landlord who receives the rent or the bank that gave you the loan and gets the interest, it is an asset that generates them a passive income. Liabilities are like that one friend who always asks to borrow money and never pays you back. They're the things that take money out of your pocket, like credit card debt, car payments, or a mortgage. They're like a financial leech, sucking the life out of your bank account. But here's the kicker. Sometimes things that seem like assets can turn into liabilities. For example, if the interest on the mortgage is too high, the whole undertaking can lead to a loss. A rental property might seem like a great asset, but if you can't find good tenants or if the property requires constant repairs, it can quickly turn into a liability. That's why you have to do the math first. If you finance your assets with a liability, the return after taxes and other costs of the assets must always be higher than the interest rate, leaving you with a profit. This video is inspired by the books Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and Money, Master the Game by Tony Robbins. I will put a link in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. Assets are things that generate income over time. It's like an apple tree. Once you put the seed in the ground, water it, and wait for it to grow, it keeps giving you apples. This is commonly referred to as passive income. Passive income is like having a tiny army of minions working for you while you relax on a beach somewhere. It's like having a personal ATM that spits out cash every time you push a button, and all you have to do is sit back and watch the dollars roll in. But here's the catch. You can't just snap your fingers and make passive income appear out of thin air. You need to put in some work up front, like setting up a rental property, creating an online course, or writing a book. Once you've put in the effort, though, it's like hitting the easy button on life and letting the money come to you. This initial effort and time you put in is often worth it and pays off in the long run. You're probably the most important money machine in your life. Although you may have some investments, they are probably not enough to rely on alone. If you stopped working, the machine would stop, and so would your cash flow, income, and financial stability. Basically, it's a zero-sum game. You only get back as much money as you have invested in time. If you stopped working, your income would go away too. Avoid the time for money trade. So let's explore the alternative approach of taking you out of the equation. Let's create a money machine that can take your place and make sure it generates income even when you're asleep. Think of it as a second business. Its only inventory is the money you put in, and its only output is a stream of money that will never run dry, even if you reach 100 years of age. If you're just starting your financial journey or want to earn some additional income, you should not focus too much on the investment sum you have today, but on what wealth it can grow into. I've already emphasized this in my other videos, but this can't be stressed enough. You don't need large sums of money to start investing or create a passive income for yourself. Just get started small, and the compound interest effect in time will do the rest. In 1790, Benjamin Franklin left about $1,000 each to the cities of Boston and Philadelphia. His will was subject to a number of conditions. In particular, the money should be invested and could not be spent for 100 years. After those 100 years, each city was allowed to spend up to $500,000. The remaining money in the account was not allowed to be spent for another 100 years. 200 years after Benjamin Franklin's bequest, a period during which stocks grew at an average compound interest rate of 8%, each city would receive the final amount, which in 1990 was about $6.5 million. Imagine $1,000 turning into $6.5 million. Sure, 200 years is a lot, but so is the return, and in all those years, no money has been added. Small continuous investments can dramatically increase the future value of an investment or shorten the years it takes to accumulate a fortune. Theodore Johnson worked for UPS and never earned more than $14,000 a year. His secret? He set aside part of his salary and invested it into company stock. By the time he was 90 years old, the value of his UPS stock had risen to more than $70 million. And there are many other stories about people who started small and retired with 8 figures. Let's look at an example of how to start small to achieve great results. If you invest in rental property, you generate passive income from the rent the tenant is paying to you. The only problem is that such an undertaking requires a lot of capital that you either have to bring yourself or borrow. In the case of leveraged capital by borrowing from a bank, interest will be due on the mortgage, which will reduce your earnings. Now, depending on the market environment and the interest rate level, this interest, if high enough, can eat up your entire profit. This cannot happen if you bring the investment sum all by yourself, but as already mentioned, this is very capital intensive. But there is a way around this. You could, for example, invest in a so-called real estate investment trust, or in short, REIT. It is a type of investment company that owns and manages income-producing real estate. They allow investors to invest in large-scale income-producing real estate without having to directly own the property themselves. REITs allow individual investors to buy shares in a real estate portfolio that typically includes a variety of properties, such as apartment buildings, office buildings, shopping malls, warehouses, and hotels. The income generated from the properties is distributed to the shareholders in the form of dividends. One of the benefits of investing in REITs is that they offer investors the potential for steady income and capital appreciation without having to invest a large amount of money. And many of them only require a minimum investment of a few $100s. Sure, the return you get from a REIT you've invested a few $100 in is far less than a rental property you own yourself, but the returns will compound and generate more and more income for you over time. Also, REITs are required by law to distribute at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders in the form of dividends, which may qualify for a lower tax rate than ordinary income. They also provide diversification for an investment portfolio, as real estate often behaves differently than stocks and bonds. Unlike physical real estate, which can take time to sell, REITs can be bought and sold on the stock market like any other publicly traded security, in case you need some quick liquidity. I'm not trying to promote REITs or something of that sort, although they can be a great investment, but rather I want to drive the point home that there are several ways to participate in long-term growth and compound interest, regardless of your current wealth or investment amount. REITs are just one example, and there are many other ways to earn substantial long-term returns with small investments. However, I would like to give you another point of view, which in my opinion is not given enough attention. Now, the common saying goes, time is money. This means that there is a direct relationship between your time, especially your free time, and the money you earn. Let me explain this. If your day was twice as long, you could work twice as long and earn twice as much money. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because we can't increase time, and we are limited to the 24 hours per day, minus the time we're sleeping. Now, not all income is measured in terms of money. Note that not all assets, and this is often overlooked, earn you money. Assets can passively generate various types of returns, such as apples, food for the village, or one of the rarest currencies, time. Time is a very limited resource, therefore trading time for money is a bad idea. What we can do, however, is manage our time better. I'm not talking about reorganizing our day or taking time away from other obligations, but gaining additional time by making ourselves redundant. Imagine you work in an office and your only task is to copy numbers from one Excel spreadsheet to another. That's it. That's the whole task. Now, if you link the spreadsheets with an Excel formula that does that task for you, you became more efficient with your time. You've basically made yourself redundant and gained some extra time while you are still getting paid. Now, obviously, this is a very simplified example in a very simplified world, but you can leverage this. If you are able to automate tasks you don't get paid for directly but reduce the time it takes you to do them, this can also be considered a form of passive income measured in time. Or more accurately, it is the equivalent of saving to become wealthy rather than increasing one's income. With this newly won time, you can do other stuff which makes you money or do things that give you the return you desire. At the first company I worked for, I was in charge to automate the annual and quarterly reporting to the shareholders and stock market. This involved putting all the figures, numbers, and text blocks for the financial year automatically together that went into the report, do calculations, and create the final file. I don't want to go into too much detail. Basically, this was done by linking everything to the database, which holds the data, and using if statements to automate the text blocks, wording, and figures in there. This was a lot of work initially, but after the project was done, we were able to generate the files with the click of a button again and again. Until today, the report is created this way, leaving more time for everyone. Leveraging your time and money by automating tasks or creating passive streams of income is especially easy in the digital age. This can be something as simple as creating links in your files to transfer values, or as complex as building a robot that does your job for you. Depending on your job and your tasks, the possibilities are numerous. And maybe you say you don't know how to program or something, but let me tell you that there are tons of tasks that can be automated with only rudimentary skills, and you can learn them in a few days, if not a few hours. That's the initial investment, but it's certainly vanishingly small compared to the return in time you'll save over time. Perhaps there are many tasks in your life that you can automate that don't require programming skills. Think outside the box and find ways to leverage your time. Remember, every task you automate is an asset you create for yourself. Think about your day and which parts of it can be automated to generate income or give you some of your time back. Also, almost any digital or intellectual asset can be created, duplicated, and sold with little or no startup capital to provide you with a passive income stream. Make the money work for you instead of you working for the money. Think like an entrepreneur and create your own passive income streams instead of relying solely on traditional employment. Income that you don't have to spend time earning will trump traditional income any day of the week. I don't want to bring up the usual suspects of how to make money online, like affiliate marketing, online courses, or something of that sort, because the hurdles and obstacles to enter such markets are sometimes quite high. However, I don't want to discourage you either. Rather, I want to inspire you to think about what's the best for you and fits your personal strengths and goals. It's important to keep in mind that creating passive income streams is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It requires dedication, hard work, and a willingness to learn new things. I can't afford to waste my time making money.